Good morning, everyone. And this is Sunday Morning Conversations. And I'm not your average preacher. I don't preach. I want to share something with you and awaken you from the hypnotic trance every human being on earth lives in. That's not a very good sentence, but it will do. I wonder how many here realize that they're still in a hypnotic trance with a partial awareness that is beginning to guide them in a better way. And the reason for that is because you're dying daily. And don't think for 1 minute that when you meditate, you suddenly become God's child. It's the beginning. There's lots of, if you'll pardon the expression, crap inside you that is going to come to the surface and cause you to say, oh, I didn't see that. Oh, I didn't see that. Oh, that's interesting. It never stops because you have so much of that, which I just mentioned, in you. It needs a stronger language, but not allowed on TV. But if you know what I mean. So do not be surprised that every now and then you'll get to see something you never saw before. And after a while, that changes to something, to seeing things beautiful, to see things more clearly, and after a certain number of years pass, and with an older person, like especially the thief on the cross, God shows his mercy. He didn't have to go through all that. All he had to say is we deserve what we got, right? And Jesus says, this day you shall be in paradise with me. You could be a good person much all your life and then make one mistake and it doesn't count. See? You see that? So your whole life is missing at the last moment. But the last moment, if you come to the... So you don't have to worry. That is God's grace. I promise you, I know that's true. Okay. So, what I would like to talk to you today, I'm not sure if I can express it because I never, ever prepare my sermons. I like it to be a discussion with the audience. And if you see something, and you may not, and you may just enjoy the conversation or my rhetoric, you can sit quietly, and that's all right with me. It's more fun if you want to press me about a point. But what I intend to do in everything I do on these Sunday morning conversations is to make a point that there is a divine entity, the uncaused cause. I discussed that last week with you. There's got to be an uncaused cause, something that always existed. This is very important. Now, I do watch the videos of how the universe is made, blah, blah, blah. You know, what the sun was going on in the sun, you know, but, you know, just... Let me see if I can say it differently. Scientists know how to discover how things work. And they're happy with that. So you make an iPhone. And so you make a jet plane. And you have all kinds of electronics. But scientists simply love discovering. And wow, They can make something with it. But all that is there. For example, all the different rare elements are all there, and all put there because God in his wisdom is giving you lots of plasticine to play with and to express his heaven on earth in building bridges and houses and all these wonderful things, which also can turn into dangerous things like war. It depends upon what kind of spirit you have. And there seems to be more evil than good, because the whole history of the human race is war, 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 even in marriage. War, 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 right? Trials and tribulations tests your relationship with God, and when you fail, when you make excuses, I'll come to the important point, because I'm going to keep emphasizing it. When you make an excuse, when you are demoralized, when you're living in the hypnotic state, which you inherit the day you were born, then the tendency is to not want to believe that you made a mistake, because you always want to be right and never wrong. But even bad people want to be right in their wrong, because they call wrong right, and they call right wrong. I mean, it's all backwards. It's part of the expression. So I'm leading up to something, because animals don't have a right and wrong. A monkey doesn't have a right and wrong. A monkey is a monkey. It cannot sin, whatever sin is. It cannot betray its God. It doesn't know it exists. Now, you think a chimpanzee knows it exists. It doesn't. It has it eyes and it sees, as ears and it hears. But the only reaction it can have is a slight improvement, maybe, in adjusting to environment, which is there for every creature. Otherwise, there would be no survival. So the strongest ones in the different atmospheres and situations, they live to reproduce, so therefore the others also continue the line. But there's no right and wrong. I can just see movies and videos of alligators and crocodiles, and there goes a little baby, baby deer or something. And so you think, oh, it's so cruel. Yeah, but we eat chickens. We're too fiddly to want to kill it ourselves. I just chopped the head of a chicken off one day. I want to throw up. I still eat it, though, just the same. You have to eat something. Everything has to eat everything else. The cow has to eat the grass, and we ate the cow. So where am I going with this? I have to pause for a minute. I was watching, as I sometimes do, the science programs, the Sun, but this time they were talking about, they've discovered the earliest kind of humanoid that could be the transition between monkey and human, which is insanity. Because, you see, human beings have some kind of choice which is not exactly accurate at this minute as I'm speaking to you. It's not quite accurate, but I want to be very specific, because the specificity of it is deadly important. The monkey does not have a consciousness. It sleeps and it's awake. and it does not know it exists. So your dog can look at you, cock its face on one side, and is listening to, he wants to be obedient because it needs a pack leader. And we need a president. We need an organization. See, it's necessary. Otherwise, it's every person for himself. As long as everybody's themselves, it's okay, but not everybody's themselves, and pretty soon you're going to have evil coming in and then corrupting people. But the point is, corrupting is not possible for a chimpanzee. So what is the difference is, what is happening? Did spiritual something or other, which sees and perceives, but not just sees, and hears, but understands deeply. So deeply it can build a bridge. So deeply it can discover how to make an iPhone. So deeply nothing's impossible. Nothing. When you look at my iPhone, it's like crazy. It's smarter than me. But it doesn't know what it's doing. The computer's got lots of knowledge, but it doesn't know. Hasn't got any common sense, and neither can you program common sense into it. It cannot be set to be with an exact timing as to what is happening next, because it doesn't know what's going to happen next, and I don't know what's going to happen next, but when I see it, I'll know. But the difference between me knowing and the chimpanzee knowing, there's only one problem. Is he going to eat me, or I'm going to eat him? Sort of thing. There's nothing creative about it. There's nothing, no spiritualness about it. The only spiritualness is that it's creation. But so is the blade of grass. So, going back to what I saw the other day, it's 2 hours. I got a little bored. But what they discovered, they're so happy. They're so full of joy. They find down underground, like 200-300 feet down, this Piltdown man. It's not really the name of it. It's going to be the Skyberius or the Bongo man. They give it any kind of name. But I don't think it deserves a name. Because when they put the skeleton together, they're so happy. This is a most wonderful thing that ever happened in their life. They found the first human being. And where the translation, is it the word translation? Yes. Transition between monkey and man is possible.
I watched, when I was really young, a show on National Geographic about Dr. Leakey finding a
Dr. Leakey, what was wrong with him?
He all his brains and his manliness leaked out.
Yeah, was he leaking? That's what I want to know.
He was leaking bad. But he found a jawbone, and it was in Africa. He would spend his entire life finding, and he found this jawbone. And it showed during the film them fashioning an entire skull over this jawbone. They were stretching. They were looking for...
Well, what's the point?
Well, the point was they were trying to find the missing link.
I understand.
I know that, but they were using... they were stretching the truth to come up with that. Of course. It was just like ridiculous.
The whole truth
it was just a jawbone.
Is to prove there's no God.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
That's what
they're
they
all
wanted to
nice
believe.
people. They're intelligent. They're brave. Yeah. They've got all the virtues but what is missing is the truth that the joy has involved in it the rejection of a creator, the uncaused cause. You cannot have a universe, impossible. I'll sit on a stage with any scientist and wipe his little face and put his face in it. You cannot have, see, when they say there's a cause and effect, it can mean many things. But when it comes to a universe where there's a no cause, but there is a cause called the singularity. Now, singularity all of a sudden appears. But where did it come from? The singularity is so hot and so tiny, but they also forgot something. How far are you looking from it? Are you looking up at it 1 trillion miles away? Or are you looking at 1 million miles away? Size is relative. Why can't they just get that? It can't be something small as the end of a pin and already have within it a universe that is already designed and all it has to do is take its places. That's not possible. That's impossible. But the idea that it's a little tiny pinpoint, the small, and on top of that, it explodes like a nuclear bomb. But much more than a nuclear. How do you get order from a thermodynamic moment, which is the equivalent? You cannot have order. It's not possible.
It would be like a tornado in a junkyard creating a car.
That's right. Yeah, it's a tornado, as the old saying says. You can't make, a Mercedes, by blowing up a junkyard.
No.
See, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, but people, their mouth is open when they see all these wonderful things blowing up and suns giving it light. They understand all that. Don't get me wrong. They're not stupid. They're stupefied. They can do wonderful things, but not find what is wonder. What is wonder? What is awe? If I was an artist or a painter, I wouldn't paint for myself. I would paint for other than myself. I would have pleasure in seeing you enjoy my work. And if it does you some good to see whatever I'm trying to express, it's not just a painting. So how clever I am, I got to make an expression of it. An expression of something in that painting. And not glorify myself. But in everything in the universe, God needs to be recognized. All he needs to say is, see what I painted. See how I've created all these things. But then he doesn't speak. He doesn't speak to the singularity. He doesn't speak through the singularity. Billions and billions and billions of years, but there weren't years. There wasn't any years at all because there was no time. Yet we can't imagine a universe without time. But I see a universe that has no time, so it doesn't make any difference. There's no time involved up to the point where you have the fabric of space. The fabric of space is like building a house. You have to have a foundation. You cannot have a house without a foundation. You cannot have a universe without a foundation. And if you look at the fabric of space, it is nothing else but flowing gravity, flowing like a winding of a ball of string, coming from that place which is infinitely hot. I mean so infinitely hot, but you have no idea how big that is and how hot that is, and it can't be inside the universe because the universe wouldn't survive with it in the middle. Einstein said there is no such thing as I'm looking for the word.
Vacuum?
No, I'm looking for the word. It is an absolute rest frame. Something that does not move, but is the mover of what's moved. And that has to be absolutely still. There's got to be a place where something doesn't move, but it's the mover. It is what I'm referring to as a beginning, and what I'm referring to as the uncaused cause. So the uncaused cause has to make something that is infinitely hot, because that's what I agree with. There is something infinitely hot out there. You can't see it, you don't know where it is, because it's outside the universe. Don't tell me there's no such thing as outside the universe, because the universe is expanding into the outside the universe. And what is it expanding? Something's expanding, nothing can't expand. So in the beginning, let's go back a little bit, there was the void. And what is the void? I've written an article on this, so I'm just taking pieces out. So what is the void? In the beginning, it's so beautiful. In the beginning, there was the void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, right from the beginning. Now, you may not think, or whoever doesn't want to think, my audience here are thinkers. You can appreciate some of the things I'm saying. So, does it not say, in the very beginning, the very first words uttered, in the beginning, there was the void. Now, what is a void? A void is nothing. What do I mean by nothing? It means no heat, no warmth. There's no floor. There's an unending floor of absolute cold. Nothing. So in the beginning, there was the void. Now, when you look at, let me just stop for a little bit and play with it. In the beginning, if you look carefully, if you will consider this, that is what I call a pure void. The gravity that, you may not like this, you may not never understand, that you think that scientists understand gravity. They don't. Science does not know what gravity is. Let me finish a second. I'll just say, they do not know what it is. The mathematics, whether it's a push or a pull, is the same. The truth of the matter, it isn't the same, but we won't go into that. Push is different from pull. But the mathematics is the same, but the outcome is not the same. I'll leave that as a clue. And so what I'm speaking about is a pure void. So when the Bible says, in the beginning there was nothing, and God said, let there be light, the singularity, that shines with a tremendous heat, so tremendous, it's enough to create an entire universe. What is it that's going to create an entire universe? Is the continuous flow of energy into the void, like a river, like a lake flowing river into the accommodating ocean. Guess what? If there's no accommodating ocean, you could not have a flowing river. And so therefore you must understand that gravity is the first warmth. And the gravity is full. We'll just keep it very simple. The whole universe is made of gravity. But what made gravity flow into it will flow and design from the very beginning, and in that designing from the very beginning is everything else designed. So no matter, soon as one does its thing, the cause will produce an effect. The cause is the singularity. It flows from the hot into the absolute cold, and the cold retreats at a tremendous speed at 160,000 miles per second, but there's no time. It flows, but there's no time. You can't imagine something with no time. You have to have gravity, and then gravity, there's no time to it. There's no time in gravity. It's everywhere, and it's spinning. It winds like a ball of string, round and round and round. You can't see anything. You've got the fabric of space. But there's still nothing. There's still nothing. What you've got is an impure space. It's full of warmth at the very, very lowest cold it can be and still be warm. There's enough of that in that gravity. There's enough warmth in the cold. In other words, below that is a small amount of heat that you cannot reach. That's what creates the universe, because there's so much of it. And it still flows forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And then the universe expands and expands and expands. And if you examine the universe, it's expanding, but the temperature remains the same. So there's a force keeping the universe going.
They said that one of the coldest temperatures ever measured was on the back of the moon. Because
No, don't go there.
Yeah.
Don't go there. That doesn't mean a thing. That's a temperature's ever known. Gravity is the coldest temperature in the universe, but it has heat.
Yeah.
Enough heat down below that, which you cannot reach. You cannot reach it. It's not reachable, but it's there. Mm-hmm. It's a very special kind of heat. We're not. Do you understand how much heat there is if it's flowing and warming uniformly, never varying, unvariable? Can you imagine what the very first? It wouldn't be a big bang. It'd be a big whoosh. No sound. There's no sound. There's no explosion. It appeared, and the minute it appeared, whoosh, the cold becomes, guess what? It becomes a polarity. The positive is the heat. The negative is the flowing. The negative is the flowing cold, running from it at a tremendous speed, forever, because the void is forever. But the void is no longer the void is no longer pure. It's not a pure void. It is an impure void. But it seems like a void to us because we live in that, which is still has no time to it. The only time that exists is when something spins. So listen carefully. So let's take a river and pretend that the lake is the singularity. And then it flows, and because it's always being refueled by rain, right? And it overflows, and it will, since it overflows, it will flow into a river, as a river, and now you have momentum. You have like electricity, but it's not water. It is a field that flows forever, and the forever is always accommodating. There's always room for it, because it keeps retreating and retreating and retreating, and never, 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 never ending. And so you've got two absolutes. One is absolutely hot, the other one is absolutely cold. And one flows into the other, and what you got is a machine in the universe that is still there. One is outside the universe, and the other one's on the other side, so to speak.
Never heard that.
Never think of that, would you?
No.
And it's still flowing into the universe, and the universe is bringing life with it. It's bringing life with it.
So is that why gravity then is a push? Because if it was a pull, then the singularity would attract it instead of it going away.
It's always a push, even though it's going
Okay.
round like you're winding a ball of string. It's in one direction.
Right.
There's only one direction.
And what we
But it becomes different directions because look what you have. The string now has different directions, each one with the same length. So you can go in any direction, and you can go in every direction, and the way gravity acts is the same in every direction. It's not just a straight line. It's like a ball of string. And so whichever string you take will lead you back to the beginning. Whatever string you take, it will go back. If you go backwards, you can't go backwards.
Isn't a planet a disturbance in the force? So when this thing sweeps over us,
No,
it
no,
actually
no,
slows.
no. You're just running away with me.
Okay.
You are absolutely running away. You're not getting what I'm saying.
Okay.
Is it thermal energy?
Huh? No, 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 no. No, don't do it. No, no, no. You're not following me. No, you're not following me. I'm leading you. I'm saying the gravity you have is flowing through itself in every direction. It's flowing through itself. It's collisionless. Only when you have, it starts to spin. You know in a river, you have a little eddy that spins. The little eddy is heavier than the flow. And because it's spinning, it's gyroscopic or gyroscopic, however you like to pronounce it. And because it's gyroscopic, it tends to want to resist. Not that it can resist very much. It's pushed at the speed of light. But it still has a little resistance and causes a curve, the river to curve around it. Just like so the particle is really a spin. And so what is spinning it is the everlasting river. So when you look at everything on a quantum level, way down, everything's spinning. And if you look very carefully, the spinning translates into the spinning of everything, the moon, the sun. The moon doesn't, but even the spins within the moon, moon doesn't turn. But Earth spins, and if you have enough spin, the whole damn thing spins.
The atoms,
You have to have enough.
the atoms in our body have the electrons
Everything's
that
spinning
go
in
at
your
the
body.
speed of light. It's amazing. It's something inside of your body is traveling at the
If
speed
you have
of
a
light.
fan, if you have it fast enough, you might be able to pick it up without your fingers being caught. You wouldn't just pick it up. Basically,
Yeah.
not that it's actually practical. Now you see, there is so the Bible starts off, but you don't have enough. The scientists do not have enough brains to actually see that the Bible is absolutely flawless, and in the words of their time, they could not express it the way I did. They didn't have language. And now you've got a special language for science, so you've got to be a scientist to understand. It sounds like a different language. I'm speaking to you as a scientist myself. I think of myself as a theoretical scientist without a degree. I don't need a fricking degree. And I don't think the guy what's his name, that made iPhone, he didn't have a degree in what he did.
Steve Jobs, yeah.
No, but none of us need a degree. The worst thing you can do is educate somebody. The best thing you could do is allow a child to unfold like a flower and see where he goes, and help him. And if he asks a question, you help him. You may not know it. You say, well, you have to figure that out for yourself, and he will. You wait for him to ask the question, why is this? Why is that? See, and maybe you don't know the answer. And he will keep looking, he'll find it. Seek and you shall find. Knock on the door, shall be open. Nothing is closed to you. What I just shared with you is not in science. And I've actually came out and said what is partially a secret. Partially a secret so that scientists can listen to me and see what asses they are. Because not necessarily because there are lots of good scientists who believe there's God, but they didn't think the way I think. They didn't see the way I see it. I have a gift, and I have a gift because I don't have a freaking degree. The degree gets in your way.
You started out fresh with a.
That's right.
Yeah.
See? And so, what I'm trying to get you to see now is back to the monkeys. What they presented as a, pardon me, Whenever I come into air conditioning, that's what happens to me. What they're missing is, well, what they're doing, looking for a transition of an evolutionary creature. There is an evolution, but there's also an evolution. It's evil. It is an effect with no cause. That's impossible. If you want to build a house, you must have a foundation. And the foundation does not have to create itself, does it? Can you imagine a foundation creating itself? Well, can you imagine a universe where a foundation created itself? So when they say there is something infinitely hot in the universe, they don't question what put it there. I've never heard a scientist talk about what put it there. It couldn't put itself there. There has to be a cause of that effect. And that effect is to create momentum, a field of everything, a field of dreams, where it becomes the universe. And it has to be built into the beginning, infinitely hot. Everything that you see is already programmed in there. It just needs to unfold. But the beautiful thing, then you see the whole universe, but then there's something inside you that sees the universe, that understands to some degree how science works, and what gravity is and what gravity isn't, and what electricity is and what electricity is. But they still don't know what it is. They don't know what electricity is. They just know it's electricity, and you can regulate it. You could use transformers, blah, 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 but you have it in your wall, right? Mm-hmm. But they just don't know what it is. They don't know where it comes from. They don't even know where lightning, they don't even know how a tornado works. I can tell you. You don't know how, it's right in front of their nose. All it is an arc, a continuous arc to the ground. There's no explosion, there's no bang like thunder, because the electricity, wherever that came from, so we won't go into that. But it's something is obvious. They're still chasing tornadoes, right?
Yeah, they are.
And I go on the radio and say, and it's in my book. What are you doing that for? You mean you don't understand it? Are you having so much fun that you don't want to see it? It could be cancer the same way. They're having so much fun and making so much money that even if their own kids would die, they still wouldn't want to change it if the tooth was staring them in the face, because they're making so much money, and that's where they get the security from. Bang, and they're finished.
They're so busy chasing them that
that's right. They've lost their way.
They forget where it caused it.
Yeah, I can tell you what causes cancer. Very easy, but we're not going to go into that. We're talking about tornado.
Yeah, I was talking about tornadoes.
Do you understand the spiritualness of what I'm saying? I'm leading to God here. It's always that. It cannot go, the path always goes back to that. So, now listen. Electricity is created, well, the center of the earth is a magnet. We get it. Spins, you got electricity. Simple. And then the lightning is everywhere in the universe all the time. And it's very important to have lightning, believe it or not, but we won't go into that. Okay. So what it is a continuous spark. And what happens is the air burns away till it is a vacuum. The whole area in that special moment is a vacuum. And the reason why you hear a thunder is because the air collapses when the charge stops. You hear the thunder.
Oh, it fills in.
It makes a noise.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the air coming together when the vacuum collapses. When the vacuum doesn't collapse, you hear nothing. What it does is create a vacuum and sucks up the ground with a tremendous force, spinning, because all the atoms are spinning, even in space. Even there's no such thing as a vacuum. You have whatever is there is still spinning, and all the things in it spin, and you can have if you have a very big, there's little ones with perfect funnels, right? And then you have a lot. You have one, the big one that's a mile wide. There's one in each corner. And there's 3 in each corner. Or there's just one.
You mean within the actual?
Yeah. You have a huge tornado if there's 4 of them. There's one in each corner.
Do they
Or-
combine?
Yeah. Well, you've seen, if you ever see them, they pass each other. There can't be any wind. It's not. No wind does that when you see. I've seen pictures. All I have to see is a picture. Say, hey, that's not a wind. That's something else. It's not a wind from up there in the stratosphere. It is a vacuum sucking up and crawling along creating a pathway, very destructive. You see that? Because it's a pure, almost like a vacuum as to just the gravity itself that's in the center, which is almost nothing. Gravity is almost nothing, but it's everything.
Center is total stillness.
Yes. So, but the thing is, everything began with an uncaused cause saying, let there be light. And there was light. And because God is infinite, so is that light called the singularity. It does exist, but it couldn't exist without an uncaused cause. It can't cause itself any more than you can build a house without a foundation and somebody has to put the foundation there. Correct?
I believe that.
That's logical.
Yeah.
What's the matter with people who are looking at monkeys? And so God do you know how many different kinds of species have disappeared? 90% of all the animals that ever existed have been replaced.
Yeah.
And it keeps on being that way. And you have the strangest creatures in the ocean. And you have they're discovering 200 every month, 200 new species in the ocean especially. You see? So there's got to be a creator. There's got to be something that is absolutely still, because you can't have a movement. The only thing you can have in the beginning is something that is a mover, an unmoved mover. It can't begin with a movement because well, all you've got is a movement and it has to stop. If there's such a thing, you need something that has an infinitely powerful, infinitely supplied, like a lake is infinitely supplied by rain. Right?
Yeah. When they say that the universe is expanding, that proves it, because if there was no original
No, you got it
cause-
wrong.
Okay.
You're expanding it because you measure the temperature of the universe while it's expanding, which explains that there's something still moving.
Yeah.
And the universe is getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
It's not going to ever collapse like the stupid ones say.
No, I believe that.
It's never going to collapse. It's forever.
Because the force is pushing it.
Why do you want to create something and then smash it to pieces?
That wouldn't make any sense.
That's not creation.
No. But what I was saying was that it's expanding. That proves to me that there's a original.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't prove it to you. You're wrong. It gives evidence that the infusion of energy is always there.
That's what I'm
because
saying,
you
yeah.
measure the temperature. They're clever. They measure the temperature of the universe, and guess what? It stays the same, but at the same time it's expanding. What does it mean? Common sense. It means there's an infusion of gravity.
Yeah,
There's got to be an infusion of something.
I agree with you.
I say it's gravity. And I say gravity is timeless. It has no time. It flows between it. It flows every direction, but it creates a fabric, just like when you ball a string. You got a fabric of space. And if you can make a perfect fabric of space. You can't do that with string.
No.
But it's a facsimile. God always gives us a facsimile. We can just say, oh, that's just like that. And it makes sense.
Yeah.
See that? So what is time? Well, when it spins, as soon as this gravity begins to spin like water, just 2 dimensions. Let's do it in 3 dimensions is too difficult to discuss because water can't have 3 dimensions like that. But using that as the lake, as the supply, forever, like Niagara Falls. But so therefore, if there wasn't a way to drop and go into the ocean, no electricity, because you need an accommodating void. And so the void retreats, and then you have an imperfect void, which is called gravity. It is a flowing field, uniform, unvariable. That's what it is. Perfectly unvariable, forever and ever, until it curves and begins to spin itself into a universe that is like a ball of string. And they give all different funny shapes. They just guess. It's everything is fractal. What fractal means, it has the same shape as the universe. Everything that spins, the moon, the stars, all the little parts all spin round and round and round forever and ever and ever. What keeps it spinning? What keeps everything spinning? Oxygen is oxygen. No matter how many times you blow it up and it comes back together again, and you eat it, and then you expel it, and it turns into dung, and it goes back into the air. and it's still oxygen. Yeah. It's still spinning at the same speed. Or, I'm getting carried away. You're actually getting in my way right now. Okay. See, you're getting in my way, you're not listening. You're too busy trying to help me with it. And you're getting it wrong. You got to get the whole story. I don't mind you calling, but you need to add, not make noise. Okay. Well, because I'm giving you real scientific facts. Science means it's already been proved. Yeah. But they don't know what, I understand what they prove, but they don't understand what goes on behind what is provable. They only see the provable, but they don't see what caused it, what makes it provable, what makes it obvious, what makes it apparent, what makes it spin. They don't ever see behind that. They don't know what it is. But they do very well with what they got. That's intelligence. Mm-hmm. So we need to look at religion in its early stages, where it says, God says, let there be light. That's what it is. And light is forever. It implies that. In the beginning there is light, and the light is still coming. But it's not light as we know it. It's not light as we know it. You'll never see the infinitely hot thing. It's outside the universe. Einstein said, and correctly so, there's no such thing as an absolute rest frame in the universe. But everything's moving in the universe. What's moving it? It's the unmoved mover. And that's outside the universe. You can't have a universe with that in it, and it be in the universe. It would blow everything up. It's the result. The universe is the result of that being outside the universe and supplying it with energy, with intelligent design. With every little thing you see is the effect of a cause and causing, and an effect of a cause and causing an effect. And that effect becomes a cause of the next effect. Now you've got one problem. What is life? How did a blade of grass suddenly appear? See, what is life? What gave life to the monkey? How dare they? Or the audacity to look with their nose in the air, and the sun does this, and the moon does that, and a new supernova does a supernova, whatever it is, because I don't even know what it is, it's just too much. They have a wealth of how it works, but they have no idea well, how it works, but why it works. I'm into the why. That's more fun. I appreciate the fact they're clever. The trouble is, they're not clever enough. Because evils can be used. Evil scientists can do the same thing. Evil scientists can be, or good people, like in Hitler Germany, they took the Jewish scientists and kept their family and made them invent things. Because they knew they had the intuition to do that. What else? They have no choice.
Yeah.
They don't want to see their kids murdered. So it's human. And so, then we got good and evil. Now, here's a question. Can a monkey feel guilty? So, and what is conflict in ourselves? How many people have known what conflict is? Oh, why do you have conflict? I don't see any. You're living in a nice country, there's food on the table, you wear nice clothes, you're not in medieval times where you have focus on just finding a bit of food, you have a roof over your head, no matter how, you still be happy. You're sitting under a tree. You might be better sitting under a tree, if you've been, pardon the way I said it, metaphorically speaking, of course. But why is it you have anxiety? Could it be that we had something and lost it? Could it be that there's the beginner is within us and making us very special? And he doesn't need to have a monkey turn into a human being through evolution. A monkey will always be a monkey, and a gorilla will always be a gorilla, and that will sort of like titillate the decent and stupid, or stupefied, because school does stupefy you, and you can still be a nice person. You can still look for the Piltdown man, and the Neanderthal man, and we found a Neanderthal man. And we just have to figure out where's the translation between the monkey. And let's go look as far back as we can and see if we can find. And guess what they found? I look at it, I said, oh my God. Oh my God. It was the ugliest. It's like a shriveled up thing, And when they fill the details in, because you can't really tell all the details, you can do the best you can. And they can make it look like you put skin on it, which didn't have that skin, all kinds of things. Never mind. I said, that's where we came from? God had to create all these different creatures, and then here comes monkey and gorillas, and they're like us, they look a little bit like us, but the difference is they have no soul. They don't even know they exist. They don't. Animals have a consciousness, but not like ours. They can't build a building. They can't build an airplane. They can't think in such a way that we can change the future. Something is changing them, and they are the future. They are the result of future, cause and effect becoming cause, and then I can't go here. I can't go where this blade of grass comes from. But the blade of grass needs to grow so that something can have something to eat. You can't eat mud. So how do you get life from mud? But how do you get the mud? We just discussed that. See that to some degree. What I'm trying to say is to strengthen your belief in God. He wants to make in the end result, the pride and glory of everything he did is to make an image of himself, take a piece of earth and shape a human being and breathe life into it right there. And then say, of all the trees you may freely eat. knowing full well that he will make the wrong decision. Knowing full well that if he made 10 billion of these people, they would all fail. Because what he wants is you to volunteer to love him, to want him. See? Because human beings have to make a choice. Because there's no love without choice. So he's got to make the first one and give them a choice, knowing full well that every single one of them will not be able to resist the temptation of paradise lost. So I used to read a story about there was a war in heaven, and the angels fell, and 1/3 of them fell to the earth, right? And so where are they? They're in this room. They're in the street. They're everywhere you go, but they're in people. Because they can't function when you walk in the street. Can only function through a person who lends himself to that. But how does he lend himself to that? He doesn't. When you are born, you inherit sin. Now the word sin is simply a spiritual, for the better word, disease. It's a pandemic. So he knew if he made billions of them, it would be a waste of time. It's got to happen. Suffering has to happen. And suffering will lead, but the suffering will lead to either to be one of the evil ones who love to cause suffering and live off your suffering. But that is vampire. ISIS is a vampire. Hitler Germany and the people that have been persuaded in 14 years. How did he take a whole country and turn them into parasites and killers and murderers without any compunction? See, you can't do that to a monkey. He can't be evil. A dog can't be evil. You can have rabies, but it's not evil. Human beings can be evil or good. Well, then there is an evil and there is a good. And if you don't say there's no evil and good, there's something wrong with your brain. Because it's obvious. It's apparent. But how do we get to where we are? Through one man, sin. Only need one man. God knew he was going to fail. But guess what he did? When he approaches Adam, knowing, as if he didn't, you know how he did, as if he didn't know that he ate the fruit, right? It's just obedient. That's all it means is obedience or disobedience. If you obey stress, if you are responding to stress, then it will take over you and you're done. Forever. But not forever, there's a way out. Because, let me just stop for a minute because I don't want to go on the wrong track. God in his wisdom knows that temptation is too much for this new creature. That's right. He's in paradise. That's where we need to be. Whatever paradise is, you're not going to find it here yet. It may not be. It may be on earth, and it may not be. I suspect it is on earth one day, because Jesus comes out of the cage. He's got a brand new set of clothes. Don't you think he's a magician? You can't give him a set of new clothes. I often think of ghosts wearing clothes, which is ridiculous. It's the dark side of the force. They're not able to give them because they should be naked as as naked as a, I don't know, a turkey. Jaybird. And you can't have the ghost with no clothes on. This doesn't work. But the point is, he's a magician. He can bring you back to life. He said, all the things I can do, you can also do, but it takes a time for you to suffer. You inherit suffering. In other words, if you go far enough, you'll see all of your ancestors suffering exactly the same fight in arguments with murdering each other, beating each other, violating each other, sexing each other to death, becoming demoralized. and killing themselves, killing other people. You know, you see that the behavior is reminiscent. It is, now maybe that word is not correct, but each one of you inherit a hypnotic state. I use the word hypnotic instead of sin because I understand hypnotic states is what we call sin. Because there's the evidence of it is one place in the Bible where by Saul or Paul, right, woke up from his sickness. He fell down on the ground and lost his consciousness and woke up. And then he wrote, the thing I did, the good thing I wanted to do, I couldn't. He wanted to do good, but he couldn't do it. Something prevented him. He was a Pharisee, or Sadducee, actually. He was a Pharisee, no, because Pharisees believe in the coming of Jesus, of a Savior. So he was that. And so he thought clearly, the things I wanted to do, the good ones, I couldn't. The bad ones I didn't want to do, I did. So what it is within me, it must be sin that made a home in me. Now sin is not, I describe sin as a hypnotic state. A hypnotic state cannot be cured. So the reason I could hypnotize every single one of this you in the audience if I so choose, but I have to use a different technique on everybody. But some are easier than others, but some take a little time. That's why Hitler could do it to a whole country in 14, 15 years. He did it. Yeah. You got people to be saying to sit there and be enablers and do because they're afraid to be murdered, and then they got the murderers. So he has a whole system. How did he do it? Because he could. Because there's a weakness, and if you push people hard enough, and if you have a strong enough voice, and you can be more believable as a liar, because it's easy to be a lie. What is the first? The first lie was, did you eat the fruit I had asked you not to eat? No, Eve made me do it. Ever since that time, men blame women for what they fail to do, which they need to be saved from themselves. The whole of the misery of the human race is not the woman's fault. It's the man tending to go to her because he came from her. He goes back to her for reassurance, which is never reassurance. All the man does is embolden the worst in the woman. When you need to say, no, not tonight, Josephine, put that fruit down. Don't play little games with my head, which they all do. They can't help it. The children can't help it because they're born of women. And so the minute you become born of a woman, you can't help but inherit her nature. And the role of a man, well, as long as the nature of the woman is in the man, he can't be a man. The woman's nature will cry to the woman who recreated in her image, just by being born. Born in sin, born subject to the woman, because the men look to the women, just as they come born, they look to the woman when they grow older for reassurance that he's a man. Not even a dog does that. The dog doesn't look for reassurance. It has sex, bang, 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 thank you, man, that was the end of it. There's no love in it. It's just procreation. What you look as sex is love. Sex is not love. Eating is not love. It's necessary. It's part of of being a human. You reproduce. Jesus didn't reproduce. What he did reproduce is who he was. What you can get back from all of the generations who pass on the sin, the hypnotic states. And I forget the person who, I wish I could remember his name. Sometimes I don't have a good memory of names and places. But in Russia, I wish I could remember. I wish it really spoils my talk when I don't remember.
Was it Solzhenitsyn?
No, it's one who discovered how to play with dogs. Pavlov. Pavlov discovered that. He could condition the dogs to certain things, to noise. And we won't go into that. But then he realized that the psychiatrists above him understood when they looked at all the Russian people, they're all doing the same thing to their children, making them mentally ill and passing the mental illness on, which is called sin, to their generations. It never stops. So he decided that I see what's going on. The parents are no damn good. Excuse the expression, that's how he'd think. He sees that they abuse the women and use the women, and it looks like romance, but it isn't. It's just romance is not love. It's a hunger for something from the woman that is a no-no. Sex is okay so long as you have virtue. As long as you understand that what a woman really wants is a real man, and what that real man is a converted Adam. And there just isn't such a thing as a converted Adam until Jesus appears. There's no perfect man. Every man makes the same mistake, including me. Okay? Every man makes the same mistake. I didn't, but it wasn't so huge with me. It was easy for me to see what mistake I made. And
You caught it early.
yeah, I just moved forward with it, see. And so, but still my family is influenced by her. She couldn't help it, it's not her fault. I didn't understand as much as I understand today, but today I have enough understanding to help my whole family, hopefully. They don't have to accept what I have to say, right? They don't have to. I won't force it, never will. I wish it.
I think what I saw growing up being raised by a single parent was my mother could not resist the pull of the world. And that's, with
No
women,
way.
it's really hard for them.
But men can't resist the pull of a woman.
No. So it's kind of a...
And it's not, a woman isn't that strong, but he's needy of it.
Yeah.
Because he's the extension of the original sin.
It's his identity.
Through one man's sin and death. And the good book says something about that. And Jesus makes it, validates it. Through one man's sin and death through sin, spreads through the human race. And whatever culture you come into will give you the language, but also corrupt you in the same way, except different language. So your authority lies outside in human beings, which are not really human beings, because only the worst of them seem to get somewhere. And the best of us don't want power, but it's left to the worst of us to become that power, and then we have to learn to deal with it sooner or later. We're too nice. We need stress. And the very fact that we don't understand this, we have relationship with women, we make our women worse, we're trying to make ourselves better. You love the hell out of them, but you need to love the hell out of them, but what you do is you embrace the love in them. You get worse, because the more you give the woman, give in to her, to give you what he wants from her, which he shouldn't have. Man should not get anything from a woman. No love. No woman can love a man, but she only loves a man that doesn't need her. In other words, need is wanting something from somebody. So you eat food, you need food, and you're hungry without it. So there's something in a woman that is extended to the man, and there's a dark side of him because he's born of woman. And so he's affected by his mother because his father failed. And if you go back, all the grandfathers fail. And so therefore, the nature of the man comes through every single generation, and it's a hypnotic state. It's a love that becomes to hate, and the hate becomes a greater need for love, because the more you hate, the further you are from God. There's a God. And the reason why you have why you have that anxiety is that the need for the men's need for women to validate that they're men. And it's the validation is the same relationship that Adam had with Eve that got him thrown out of the garden. And guess what? How many men in your life, how many people sitting here make excuses for themselves? Your whole life is excuses. And as many excuses as you make, it adds up and it adds up until you are crazy. Or anxiety. Or you belong to a gang. Or you belong to ISIS. And then you'll find people rising to the occasion and see, I can use you and pay you a lot of money to cut people's heads off and give you power. Because that's what basically the offering was. You can be God. But you can't be God. But the knowledge of good and evil are both wrong. You can't learn religion. You don't want to learn it. You can read it, but you don't want to commit it to memory. The minute you commit it to memory as a way of acting it out, as an actor on the stage, actors on the stage remember all their lines. I can't be an actor on the stage. I can't remember the first thing. I can't remember it. I don't want to remember it. It's all ridiculous. I don't want to be an actor on the stage. I just want to be spontaneous. And spontaneity comes from within. That makes me different from a monkey. So we are a nation and a whole world of nations who are broken. And you see mostly evil everywhere. You see people giving in to go along for peace, thinking they understand what peace is, thinking they know what goodness is. The average person always looking for peace. And the predators always looking for peacemakers. See? Now what you need is the real peace that cannot be overcome. Because all you've got in the world is evil, and there isn't much good. There is good, but not enough. So the trial and tribulation is this. At the end of the story, we're all born in a hypnotic state we call trauma. There's hardly anybody, there are a few, percentage-wise that doesn't count. Too many of the others, right? So the tendency is, unless you find it for yourself. But then you find it by yourself, you find yourself all by yourself, nobody wants to hear you. Is that right? I find, as America becomes sicker and sicker, they like me less and less. See, it's a wonder. I see that they're choosing some pretty decent people, but lots of people don't like Donald Trump and the rest of them. And what's the name of the doctor? Dr. Ben Carson. He's a decent guy, but he's not good enough for a president. He's got a tick. He's got a tick. He's got a tick. He's not real. He's not real. He is a painting of himself. See, he's put on the best he can, and he really is a good person, but he's broken. And his mother encouraged him to read books. And I get it. Nothing wrong with it. But he has a tick. And that tick means what he's done, he's built up what he knows is right and makes it work with his will. And you can with your will and knowing what right and wrong is, a study of it, appreciation of it, and even an intuition of it, he makes himself do all those things with will. And that's the conflict. You don't see the conflict, you're better off with the other fellow. It will take years and years and years. He'll be fine. He won't hurt anybody, but he won't live long. Conflict. Why the good die young? Because they have conflict. The wicked don't have conflict. They create the conflict so they can live off your dying. See that? Now this is something you don't get in monkey land. Monkeys don't have anxiety. You can create anxiety in dogs by doing strange things. See? But not much. You can train an elephant. We get it. You can even charm a snake. I get that. Because people are intelligent to varying degrees, but the real intelligence is that one man, the first man, took the dirt from the ground, and actually created a human being. Why not? He created the universe. He created all the trees and the flowers and the bees. He gave life. Why can't he give life to a piece of the ground? That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because now you're dealing with the cause of everything. You are dealing, you can't see beyond the infinitely hot singularity. Can't see beyond that. Can't go there. But you can come to the light that said, let there be light. You can speak to the uncaused cause. And that is the privilege of humans. There is no transition from monkey to human. Because the evidence of it is that you're born innocent. Now monkeys are not born innocent because there's no requirements for them to be other than what they are. But we are born innocent. And many of you can remember the minute you started to become aware, which is what gift you had when you were born, which you're going to lose. Because you're small, but you can see the world for what it is, right? And you see the injustice, and you resent the injustice, and it gets inside you. And then you're standing in the shoes of your parents, and so it goes on from generation to generation. The Bible is there. You have preachers that don't understand a single word of it. You've got scientists who are atheists, who are trying to prove that there is no God. They just want us to see how clever they are to do this or that. And they glorify in it. They are focused in it. And life is so simple. All God is waiting for you is to let you suffer. There's no claim to virtue unless you suffer. So if you give in to people, you're going to suffer, but you suffer for nothing. But the nothing can be something if one day you wake up and saying, why is my life so broken? Why am I drinking? Why am I drugging? I got married. What happened to me? I don't know. I've lost my kids. I've lost my health. Never see a monkey do that. It doesn't have the conflict with God. God is way back. He's just the product of it, one of his toys, if you don't mind me putting it that way. One of his little fun things. Well, they'll make something in the likeness of a man, and let them have it, those people have a heyday, because my people won't fall for that. These are all little temptations anyway, aren't they, in a sense? And so I am saying to you that you are special. Every one of you listening to me is special and can inherit eternal life. But first of all, you have to endure the internal strife, because you're born into it. And you are robbed to some degree and programmed. And that program is a hypnotic state that nobody can cure. Hear me. I'm a professional. I'm not proud of that. So don't think I'm boasting. I have to know, I have to be good at what a hypnotist does. And I wouldn't have done it, but I had to go through it. Military. Yeah. I had to learn. I did no harm, because all I have to do is to home in on what somebody else did and take you over, so I can make you do what they made you do. But I can do it better. In other words, that's what you're already in a hypnotic state.
Yeah, you're just stronger than the original program.
All I have to do is open the door and go in.
Yeah.
There's a scripture. I was in Las Vegas doing a seminar, and where I had an experience with a person who wanted to murder me. And Anyway, just since I mentioned it, when I went into my room, I saw another person go another. He looked me over, and something was wrong. And next morning, I'm having breakfast. Man comes up to you, Roy Masters? Yeah. I said, how do you know? Never seen before? No. He said, I've seen you on a movie. Oh, really? He begins to let me know he's been programmed to kill me. But they didn't do a very good job. I said, sit down, have some breakfast with me. It's over. Got it? And so we had a little conversation, and during the program I mesmerized him, and he sat there with his hands clasped and he couldn't open his hands. I got the security around him, all with guns. So there was that. I deprogrammed him. But what it was, I said, where did you get this knowledge of me? He says, I was in Germany. I saw this movies about you. Oh, really? They're programming him. They did a lousy job. Otherwise, I'd be dead. Maybe not. Who knows? But the thing is, what I was saying, oh yes. So I opened the drawer, and then there's the Gideon Bible, is that right? Mm-hmm. I opened it, and it was at one place. And you'll see how relative it is to what I was talking about. And if you will look up in your iPhone, follow these words. Jesus is sitting with his disciples, having a chat like we're talking with each other here. And all of a sudden he says, the adversary is coming, we must go. But he has nothing on me. Has nothing in me. Now I'll guarantee you, there's probably not a soul, maybe one, that understood that. You had to understand that because I'm a professional hypnotist. I know exactly what he said. Look up the words, because he has nothing in me. The adversary is coming. But he has nothing in me to get to me. You, on the other hand, you are open to that. So when the adversary comes, he gets to you.
We're kind of in the
Who understands that? That is what you need to watch. That's what I said. If you meditate, he has nothing. You have nothing in you to be afraid of. The meditation will restore you to God, who created the first man in his image, and immediately you begin to become perfect. Understand what I mean by become perfect. The word become is not perfection. It is a verb, which is a doing thing. You are becoming perfect. And you cannot break that. You can make a few mistakes and say, oh, I see it. You're not going to get it, may not get it right away, but you get the pain of seeing the little tiny mistake. You didn't pick up the glass on the side of the road when you saw it, and you had to pull, you ignored it. That's all it takes. See that? That's my story about the piece of glass, you know that. And many years after that, I realized, oh my God, if I had not pushed it to the side of the road to make sure nobody got hurt, it's dark, getting dark, I would have been missing all the little things, because it's the little things that confound the mighty. Little things. Little tiny, tiny things. The way you act, the way you move, the way you think, the way you speak, but especially the way you don't react, which proves that you're his. The proof that you're his, that you cannot be made to be upset by anything. They can torture you, they can beat you, they can kill your kids. and you still don't react. Because that's all they want to do is open you up. The chances are that nothing will happen to you, except it will happen, but nothing will happen to you. You understand the difference? So you will as you become perfect, you will stick out like a sore thumb in the crowd, and everything will get worse. But no, it gets worse. It's a contradiction. It gets worse, but you deal with worse better. And because you deal with worse better, you are better, and the person who's giving you the trouble gets better or drops dead. I'm just going to exaggerate it. They go away affected, infected by goodness. They can't handle it. If it can't handle it, it will kill them. Judas committed suicide. Jesus knew who he was anyway, but still, he couldn't stand the pain. Bang. I tell you, I talked to my wife. Let me say something recent. I said to her, she got involved unconsciously with some bad people. They're not really bad people. They were just workers who played her. She's easily mesmerized. I mesmerized her the first day, and didn't I? No. So when I invited her to come into my car, first day, and I said, "Your father's this, your mother's that." How did you know that? She didn't know I hypnotized her. Now, I can do that to anybody. I don't care how smart you are. It may take a little longer, but it can be done. Because the whole of Germany, it was done. See, I'm not wicked like that. But what I've learned is that the hypnotic state you are in is permanent. It cannot be cured. It can only be taken over by another person who would add more misery to you and make you more vulnerable and full of conflict. This can't be done to a monkey. You can't make the monkey doubt itself. It has no God, it has no doubt. It only has run and fight. You have all sorts of things like that, and you could be confused by seeing injustice. But seeing injustice, something is not fair, and you've not been touched. But seeing that his injustice is not fair because your father loves your brother more than you, that's not a big thing. It's just jealousy. I'm sure animals could be a bit jealous too. I understand that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but that doesn't cause conflict.
No, it's over.
It's all over.
Yeah, they just do
They'll
it.
kill each other.
Yeah.
And that's what people can do if it goes too far. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so only human beings, everybody comes into the world and they get the particular programming. So if you're English, you'll be English. If you're German, you'll be German. But you'll still have the same conflict about good and evil. So there's good Germans and bad ones. There's good Muslims and bad ones. Got it? But they're all programmed. There's good Christians and not good Christians. And there's the problem. Christianity, in its purest sense, cannot be taught. Judaism needs memory. It needs the history, which is good. The history is valuable to learn about it, but not to stuff the whole damn blessed Bible into your cranium, right?
Yeah.
So I couldn't go to synagogue. To me, I had come out laughing. I said, "This is religion?" I couldn't help but laugh.
Even in the Old Testament, they said that with the Ten Commandments, no man could keep them. Even in the Old
Nobody
Testament,
can keep them.
They knew that.
No, that's right.
Yeah. It was like.
But
it was a
it
standard.
is a necessity
Yeah.
to contain,
Yes.
punish. But then the punishment became cruelty. etc., etc. And then punishment became subservience to the punisher.
Or rigidity.
Yes. And so, I think I just need to sort of finish off just a little bit now. And if you want to talk to me about anything, because this is my little contribution today with a little science to help you understand your Creator. You are special. Everyone in this room, special. Everybody listening to me, special. You had it when you were born, but you lost it. Animals, monkeys don't have it when they're born. We have it when we're born. You remember seeing injustice. You see that, and you get angry, and then it gets inside you, and you become the thing you hate. And then you try not to be the thing you hate, and you're too good. And you appease your children, you appease your husband, and all you do is embolden him to be worse. Or codependent on fake love. It's over. Now, how many people understand codependence? Putting people on pedestals. How many people? Honest, how many did? All of you. Everybody does it. My wife did it for 63 years. She just woke up from it. But the point is, she's waking up. I got stronger, she got weaker. The weaker got, the meaner she got. The meaner she got, the better I became. 63 years, no problem. Went like a minute. What I'm looking for is that beautiful creature inside her. That's what I'm looking for. And that's what's beginning to happen. I'm happy to say. See, it's not easy. It's been a long time. That's what marriage is for a man to find how to be a man. And not to look for love from his wife, but give love to his wife. He doesn't need love from his wife. He does not need any reassurance from anybody. And he's not self-assured. God gives you assurance that you don't even know you have. He gives you courage. You don't feel his courage. He gives you love, and you don't know you're loving. You have no idea that you're loving. You can't explain yourself. You're just free. The truth sets you free. I can't see truth setting a monkey free. I can't see it understanding that a voiceless voice, a wordless word is speaking to you all the time. And when you don't listen to it, it's only because you have to go back to what corrupted you. You have to create something that reassures the broken part of you that is not broken, but it's okay. And you have to have a liar to be a lover. That's why politicians could be lie lovers, because most people don't like to face their faults. They don't realize they have an identity crisis that cannot be cured. You can only be loved in two ways: love the hell out of you, or embrace the hell in you. And most people look for that and think that that's love, and become slaves for the sake of it. Drugs, alcohol. The whole Kashmir, right there. Who understands that? Now, I want to make sure that you consider what I just said and understand that the reason why Jesus had to do this thing, because if he did not appear and prove afterlife, the Jewish people believe that. But not all Jews, because all Jewish people are not necessarily religious. It is a tribe, and it's also a religion. So you don't have to be religious to be Jewish. See that? Yeah. So you're still Jewish. Sadducees and Pharisees. Pharisees believe in the coming of a Savior. And so the whole thing boils down to the fact that Everybody talks about the afterlife. Everybody talks about God. Everybody believes that one can live forever, unlike all the creatures of the earth. That there's a purpose in, there's a scripture, all through the scriptures, go look for it, and look at it on your iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
If Adam had not done this thing, he would not have died.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference. Now, fast forward to all the things I've just said. You were born subject to the fault of the first man, where the first man was seduced when she says, I didn't die, with a nice little conversation that goes with it. Look, I didn't die. God says you die. I didn't. He looks at that. He says, well, maybe he's just testing me to see if I'm brave enough to stand up to him. Whatever thought passes through his mind.
Yeah.
So he eats it. And then God says, here's the whole series right here. And God says, did you eat that fruit? As if he didn't know.
Yeah.
And he says, what does he do? He makes the first excuse. And that's exactly what you do. You're born into that world, you get corrupted, and then when you start to do stupid things, you blame others and you make excuses. And excuses become a way of life. And if you have enough excuses, it becomes a language, a belief system.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a nice belief system, Christianity, Judaism, being a good Muslim, okay? Or it could be a bad one, be cannibal, no way back. A fascist, Nazi, no way back. It's just going to kill you. And just take pleasure of enjoying your suffering. That's evil. Enjoy suffering. That is conquering God. It is purpose so no one survives to inherit the kingdom. War multiplies war until no one's left. That's the war that goes on over the fallen angels, in a manner of speaking. It's like a virus.
Yeah, they don't like peace.
No, they don't like peace. They hate it. They love war.
Yeah.
They don't get what they need, the pleasure of other people's suffering. They live off that.
Yeah.
And you have this going on in your own country. Murder, teaching, terrorism, cruelty in families, beating kids up, beating each other up. You know, always knocking down to build yourself up.
The book, Lord of the Flies, was a...
Let's not go there. I'm just trying to make a point. So, I know I've taken a lot of time up, and you normally have not had the chance to, you know, some kind of retort. But I think I could only explain it if I wasn't interrupted too much, where I appreciate interruption otherwise. I just want you to know that look at your trials and tribulations. Look at, and don't think of your sins, which are hypnotic states, compulsive, irreversible, except salvation. I can't cure you with hypnosis. I am trying to wake you up from that state by telling you you're living in a hypnotic state. I told you the story about, which makes a perfect point. With my 18 years old, I was already very popular in Maidstone, Kent, where all the training takes place for military. 10,000 men knew me. I was sitting in a pub with a couple of buddies. He said, how do you do all that? I said, everybody's hypnotized all the time. He said, I'm not hypnotized. I said, yes, you are. And so, you see that mug? Yeah? Were you drinking out of it just now? Yes? Could you pick it up? Yes? Okay? I say you can't. What do you mean? I can pick it up. He couldn't. What did you do to me? Doesn't understand. What did you do to me? I didn't do anything. I just took him over. I just acted through him as if it was him. And then but then he has denial. He doesn't want to believe it. Oh, I just played him. I just played with him, pretended I was doing that. That's what they do. Excuses. No way can help him. I say to you, what you call trauma is a hypnotic state. And there is no cure for it. You will die with it. But it will create because the spirit of paradise lost has passed into you through hating your mother and father. That's why it says, honor your mother and father, that your days may be long. See? And it goes on to say that. Because if you do not forgive your mother and father, you remember they brought you into the world.
Yes.
If they didn't do anything else, they brought it. And you have to know that they were broken, much more broken than you are, because you realize they're broken.
Yeah.
And they don't realize they're broken. And maybe they'll never realize they're broken. But somehow you had this gift and you survived that. The people who don't survive it, that's what they're supposed to be. That's their choice. That's their choice to enjoy beating you up and confusing you. That's their choice. To want to be a bully or to be a weakling and enable the bully to be more of a bully, trying to make peace with them like we do with the nation. So we lost the last war, the Second World War, because we were peacers. And we were led by a peacer called Chamberlain. And what saved us by the skin of our teeth was Churchill. Had he been there in the beginning, no war. If all of you could wake up, if enough of you can wake up and vote properly, and not be on the left, that are unconsciously acting out the communist agenda to bring down this country, thinking they're Americans, and being privileged and being enablers to wickedness, and look for wicked people to enable them to have an income they don't deserve. So you got those people tied up, and you have a divided nation. And so you have to deal with a divided nation, a divided family, and a divided everything that comes at you. But you cannot flinch. And if you flinch, it means you're missing something. If you have fear, you're missing something. If you have anxiety, you're missing something. You will die. And when you play with if Jesus was here, and he is in here with me, as he should be in with you. But if you mess with a person that has that quality that I say, I know I have, you will suffer and suffer until you get it or die. Much more quickly had you not encountered me. Now, I'm not saying this is me. Did I speak for two hours? Good Lord. Well, well, one person liked it. Now, I want to just make an announcement. I do hope you understand what I'm saying. That everything I said points to something, to reassure you and not bamboozle you with physics. I only use physics so you could understand, correct? You all understood me about that. The scientists don't. So if I give this to the scientist, he think I'm crazy because he's an atheist. And there may be good scientists understand it. Maybe I can share with them and we could build something. But that's not the thing. Is I've used my skill to share and my knowledge to share with what I've discovered all by myself, which is 100% accurate. That's how the universe is made. In the beginning, there was void. Then the void became less perfect. It's called gravity. And it looks like a void, it looks like nothing, but it's something that creates matter, time and space and everything else. I just went through all that. So nothing, the flow of gravity, spins into something, and the curve, and because it spins, it resists the push a little bit, even though it's moving 160,000 miles a second, 68,000 miles, but it's still resisting. And even the smallest particle has time. And the biggest particle, with constant proportionality, has different kind of time. Time's not the same for everybody. Time is not the same. Time is not the same as in the center of the in the center of the sun. It takes 1 million years for an electron to reach the surface, only because time is slower. Time is slower because the momentum is slower. In other words, the faster you travel, the slower the time. The more pressure you have, the slower the time. The bigger the object. Time is not the same on Pluto as it is on Earth. Time is slower. It may still read on the watch because everything changes everything, so it might be the same time on your watch. See, but time is slower. And time is faster. The faster you go, the slower time gets. The more pressure it experiences, the bigger the mass, the slower, the more resistance it is to the pressure of gravity. Pressure. And the curve. It's harder, it presses harder on that mass. And it's local time. Local time is all of the universe of gravity pushing against you, and the object resisting. The little one gets moved at the speed of light, all by itself. Light, small matter, particles move fast. Big object resists the pressure, and the resistance is a pressure. So you have local gravity with slower time. See that? Local, more heaviness, slower time. Takes 1 million years for electron to get to the surface of the sun. It's only 125 miles deep. It takes 1 million years to get to the surface. Time is still there. Slow. See? So, with the miraculousness of all the things we say about, I'm also a little bit of a scientist, remembering little things that prove my point with their big things. See, I get that. I understand why they don't understand why things spin. I do. Something's spinning. It can't spin unless it's perpetual motion. There's no such thing. There's a beginner. See, there's the uncaused cause. That's where it all. The uncaused cause talks to you in a language that's not. If you take all the different languages on the earth, it all begins to say the same thing. There's right and wrong, and there's fair and justice, and in that language you can discuss these things, and it's the same thing in English as it is in Japan, in Japanese, and all the rest of it. It's the same thing. It all makes us human. So that every race and color and creed can come together because we have the same God. And He gives us the same understanding. And He gives each one of us a purpose in life. So you become a scientist, you become a painter, you become a bricklayer, whatever it is, you're a farmer, and you become wonderful at everything, because if everybody was a bricklayer, we'd all eat bricks. We all have different talents. This is mine. And there's more. I want you to know that very soon the network, my website, will become a center will become the beginning of a network itself. Meaning, if you want to listen to me, all you need to do is go to your website and listen to me live and listen to me archive. And you can call me. But you can put it on your iPhone and make sure, because within 6 months, it will be all there, lightly, if things don't turn out the way I expect. And so therefore, it becomes a center, a whole network by itself. And stations can pick it up from that, you can pick it up from that, and so on and so forth. We are going to, within a short period of time, that's going to happen. I'm working on it now, beginning with yesterday. All right? So now, if you are enjoying what I said, if you like my radio programs, it's not just like it. If it cures you of some malady, if it gives you a better life, then if you do not support me $1, $10, $10,000, whatever it is, the widow's mite, but you owe that to the next person who hears me, because if you don't, you rob the next person from hearing what you heard. And there isn't any, I don't think there's anybody that does what I do out there at this present moment. I turned the radio on in my car and I almost threw up. Such junk. See, so anyway, thank you very much.